Hey, oh, I'm so sorry.
Hiya.
So sorry about that, everyone. Not only do we have a later start than we usually do. Anyway, I'm late for the later start. So apologies for that. How's everyone doing?
Good.
Good.
They're hot.
Oh, here we go. Now I won't be in focus for. I've been feeling a bit out of focus lately, so this is shit. What do I do now?
Where have you been? What did you do?
No, it never catches up. Hold on, Sal. I'll try and.
Oh my god, it's so funny.
Because people really need to want to see.
Oh, hey, you're back.
I'm back. Hey, there I
am. Full on focused. No, full on.
Brilliant.
Is it just me, or was this an absolutely insane week again? I mean,
it was crazy.
Again.
It's mental. It feels to me like the wheels are coming off, don't you think?
Mm-hmm. Very much so. Yeah, it really feels like it's just like a ordinary person at the water cooler would be like, "Yep, that's crazy," you know?
Yeah. I mean, what can we start? Where to start with? I guess. Since go ahead, Sal.
Well, I've read that Judith Butler piece.
Oh well, I was going to suggest yes. Perfect.
It isn't very good, is it? I mean, it just isn't very good.
You have such a way with words, Helen.
It doesn't actually tell us anything. It doesn't use any examples of anything to actually argue about. It's just full of words. Even that bit that they took out. And I'm not entirely convinced that actually Judith Butler wanted them to take it out. I suspect this was The Guardian. They didn't want anything to do with the Wee Spa fiasco because they've reported on it so poorly. But even there, she doesn't actually say what it is that the problem is or what she's actually trying to argue against. She talks about fascism and the far right and, feminists aligning. And she says, and sometimes they'll do this and sometimes they'll do this because they don't mind contradicting themselves. And you're like, but you're talking about a massive group of people. Of course, some people are going to say something that other people don't. That's not people contradicting themselves. But even within that, she doesn't actually go into detail of what it is that she thinks or that she's saying that people are saying. It's just nebulous. And dismissed.
Are you talking about her interpretation of gender critical views?
Yes. Right. That piece that was removed.
Yes.
That you linked to in your Substack. Well, let's have a look. It's just odd, I think. Where she says, I'm just finding it because I think it's.
What's fascinating about it? While you find it, what's fascinating about it to me is just the impression of complete scrambling at the Guardian. I mean,
yes.
it's like firefighting for them now, and I think that what it is once you begin to tell lies in service of an ideology. As I say, it's very Trump-like in that it's hard for the Guardian to now know which lie they've told. They ran two pieces saying the whole thing was a hoax. Then it was revealed that it wasn't a hoax and that it was actually a sex offender, which goes right to the heart of the stand-alone question and the question that all GC women have been asking for years. And then they run the Butler interview maintaining it was a hoax. So I posited last night that Kath Viner has so little interest in this issue that she just didn't notice it. That's
right. Like they didn't properly edit the Judith Butler piece because that paragraph that got taken out was
a big paragraph.
So it was a big paragraph, and it was inflammatory as all hell. I mean, it should never have gone through.
Yeah.
But there's something about Judith Butler. To your point, Helen, about how she doesn't really substantiate anything she says. She's just like an old charlatan. She's gotten away with it for so long. She's got all this celebrity. Now she just talks like she's the shaman in the village who can just say whatever the hell she wants,
I think that's true. Because quite honestly, I think she's ended up, she looks like an idiot here, doesn't she? With this idea that to see how trans exclusionary feminists have allied with right-wing attacks on gender. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? It's meaningless. There's no examples. What attacks on gender? What are the right wing attacking? What are feminists attacking? How have they allied? There's nothing there. It's simply just using the words, just like a lot of transactivists do.
And just like her book, Gender Trouble. I mean, that's what everyone always said about Judith Butler's academic writing, was that it was just word salad. It didn't mean anything,
Yeah.
But it's astonishing that so many people are falling over themselves being like, it's brilliant. Oh my God, she's just a genius visionary. And it's like, like an old man shaman in a village who just says nonsense, and everybody, because they've conditioned themselves to think he's some kind of visionary, they just let him say gobbledygook nonsense, Did anyone see Twin Peaks season 3, where Agent Cooper, his doppelganger, was bumbling around? All he could do is repeat the last word that anyone says to him. So someone would be like, right? So somebody would be like, how are you doing today? And he would just go, today. And then everyone would be like, wow, And for like 10 episodes, he just repeats the last word of the last sentence of whatever anyone said to him. And everyone thinks he's a visionary genius, And I'm thinking of that a little bit when I think of Judith Butler, just spewing nonsense, and everyone decides she's a genius.
I mean, we have to look at the long-term kind of effects, not effects, but the long-term prospects for the human race to be vulnerable to this kind of shyster while we get used to having the internet. I mean, this part, there's a fantastic woman. I'll try and remember her name as we speak. No, that's my top 25 tips for Rainbow Six. I'll find her somehow. But she's just incredible. I'm going to post one of her videos. One of the videos she did was just a look at the Jazz Jennings, an episode of Jazz Jennings. And I've never seen the documentary before, but I saw it today, and it's really, really upsetting. It's a young child who, as this woman maybe someone else will add her name. I will have it. I'll find it while we're talking about someone else. But basically, she says that because this poor kid, made the mistake of wandering down the wrong toy aisle at a young age, the mother decided it was a girl and has just put this child through the most horrific. And you see Jazz Jennings now. Artie, you actually said this. Huge, very, very overweight. Obviously very unhappy.
Poor bugger. It's just awful, isn't it?
It's horrific. Awful. And we all watched it happen. And people will look back at it and they'll talk about this generation the way they talk about people who watch the gladiators at the Colosseum or live executions. That's what the Jazz Jennings documentary is. It's a gruesome, slow, almost like Hanukkah look at the abuse of a child taking place by doctors and people who were supposed to protect him, and it's horrific. And Judith Butler is the person behind this whole thing, and no wonder she tries to cast her opponents as bigots, because when the scales fall from people's eyes finally, I don't know, I really think there should be some arrests. I really think I think Susie Green should be in jail for what she did to her child.
Yeah.
But she, as I always say, she admits it. It's actually on her TED Talk. She admits they did it to the kid because the kid liked the toys that were for the opposite sex. It's a horror show. This is so difficult for people to understand, because there are some people who are feminine and gay and gender nonconforming, and who, because of distress that largely comes from not fitting into social and societal norms, they sort of internalize all of that distress, and they choose to want to transition. Yes. But that's still kind of like it's not like a complete it's not like it came from within. It came from pressure from outside of themselves to want to transition. And this isn't something that we should be celebrating necessarily. People who make that choice, people who need to do that in order to get by in society, it's not their fault that society is the way that it is. We have to support them if that's the best thing for them. But it's not an optimal outcome. To feel the need to transition your body is not something we should be saying. It shouldn't be something we should be encouraging more people to do. It should be very much a last resort thing. And people can't wrap their heads around this, that when a child is, gender nonconforming,
maybe they'll be so distressed about it, and maybe by the time they grow up, society will still be so messed up around gender that they will feel the need that they have to transition in order to fit into society, in order to feel proper in their bodies. But we shouldn't be just jumping to that conclusion right away. You know, this is not an optimal thing to do. And people just can't figure that out, that trans is sort of not quite tragic, but not exactly optimal. Homosexual transsexualism. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think maybe that's what Jody Best was worried about when he said what he said in one episode, where he started to get uncomfortable at the conversation, because I think he felt that talking negatively about personal choice is somehow a suspect position. But the thing is,
But it is helpful to some people. You know, it is helpful to some grown-ups as a sort of final result, really.
Or just as something that helps them, like you know, a wonderful Fionn, of course, who is much more comfortable with a feminine presentation than a masculine presentation, but is also intelligent enough to suss out that, you know, Fion's still a gay male. You know?
But also that kids should not be used to prop up this ideology.
Yeah, and that's the horrible thing, is that these gay kids are really cannon fodder for straight cross-dressers, you know, to justify their behavior.
Oh, I'm gonna publish something later on, and I won't even be able to email people a direct link because it's so horrific. It's a huge expose that Patricia Norton sent me about. I can't even say it. Lactation fetishists. Like one of the blogs that this person posts this absolutely disgusting stuff on has 10,000 followers. You know, that's 10,000 people who find this stuff erotic. And how many of them are trans-identified? How many of them? I don't know. Anyway, but like the thing, I just want to actually go back to something you said, Artie, which is, you know, what I am beginning to worry about is the notion of choice. I'm not sure the notion of choice, and I think this is what you're saying. I'm not sure if the notion of choice is all. What choice did Jazz Jennings have?
Well, that's just it. It's just like the old choosy choice feminism thing, like the third wave feminism that was like, if a woman chooses to go into prostitution, that's because she's empowered. And it's like, no, it's probably because of social conditions, you know.
But also, you know, but if Jazz Jennings were to choose as an adult, that would be okay.
Absolutely.
But it wasn't an adult. He was a child.
Let me put a caveat in there, though, you know, because you have a lot of kids now who are growing into adulthood, and they have had it drilled into them, not just by the internet, but by fucking schools and by the BBC, that this is an important step they have to take to become the real them. That's what I'm talking about. I'm wondering when choice becomes something else, you know.
Oh yeah, it's astonishing.
Like we all know that the human brain only stops developing is it
mid-20s?
Mid-20s,
mid-20s,
and they're arresting that process in people's teens. You know, one thing I brought up on Andrew Doyle's interview is this,
which, by the way, if anyone hasn't seen it yet, you must watch it. It's so great, invigorating, and an enthusiastic discussion, really lively chat, really wonderful to see someone who's not us three for once, who's really into this and just as engaged. Go on, sorry,
who already likes, but he didn't mention that bit.
Don't tell Douglas.
You know, I pointed out that, and this was true at the Scottish protest as well, but you see all these trans-identified protesters, and they're all wearing what looks like children's TV presenters, like, what do you call them? Dungarees, in kind of those sickly pale colors. Yeah. You know, I spoke about this one recently I saw, who has nearly every second part of them tend to seem to have a walker, like a disability walker, like Yaniv, or that nut job at the Scottish protest. But the one I'm talking about was the one we originally thought was an adult baby, and it's not. It's like a woman in her 30s who's poisoned herself with testosterone, is completely bald as a result, and is wearing again those kind of childlike toddler clothes, along with badges that say slut and things like that on them. And I wonder how much is of this kind of, you know, bizarre childlike behavior is caused by arrested development. Not the show, but the process of arresting your natural development as a human being at the most important time.
Yes, it's a huge experiment, isn't it? We won't find out for generations, decades anyway.
The word blocking puberty is insane. Puberty is the most important development phase in your body outside of the uterus.
Yes.
Outside of the womb.
To
think that you could just skip it.
I'm not giving the kids enough veg through puberty, because it's the most important. Eat your broccoli.
Yeah.
But not actually preventing it from happening. It is quite an insane idea. It is.
I think everyone should keep an eye on that aspect, the visual aspect of it, the kind of those sickly pale colors, those children's clothes. They've all got fucking My Little Pony badges or patches on. They look like toddlers, and they're coming out with the most violent stuff. They absolutely despise women.
Absolutely. I think this is
a mentally ill group of people.
Very, very clearly in that tweet that someone sent of the women on the train going up to Scotland. Did you see that tweet?
No. What was that? Oh, the one about the crashing and stuff.
Yes, I had a look through the quote tweets, and it was accurate. It's just like tweet after tweet after tweet of people wishing a violent death, an actual violent death on these women on the train, and in fact the whole train, everyone else on the train. And it occurs to me that this must be used in Marianne's trial. This the fact that these women just going up to support her have been sent all of these threats. This is a feature of what's happening here. Like, this isn't a bug. These aren't outliers. Violent threat as part of transactivism is an actual feature. People use it as a virtue signal. Hey, I've wished death on some turfs, and people applaud them, and it is seen as virtue signaling. And I've never witnessed a movement like it. That actually where it's part and parcel of it is violent threats. And it's not really condemned. It's celebrated.
Oh, it's astonishing that the left can get away with this. That these people think they're on the left, and they're just completely unhinged to the point of wishing people death regularly and routinely. I've seen some white supremacist groups that didn't do that. They didn't actually wish people death. They just thought that people with light skin were superior and whined about it all the time. But they weren't literally wishing people death. My God,
that's absolutely true. I remember when the even at the height of like the kind of right-wing Gamergate stuff, all that sort of thing, they were always just talking about how to sneak in their racist views. They weren't talking about killing people the way these guys are. And if there was the occasional extreme crazy person, then you definitely knew about it, because that person would be highlighted and we'd be all talking about this person and it would be a big thing. This has become wallpaper to this movement. Violent threats to women is wallpaper, and I still can't quite get over it. I really need, I just need to, I don't know if you saw the tweet the other day, a woman called Wendy Lyons, who's a Sinn Féiner in Ireland, American Sinn Féiner in Ireland, tweeted because I said I didn't on the Andrew program, the Andrew Doyle program, I said that I didn't want my daughter referred to as a cervix haver. And this person tweeted that I was obsessed with my daughter's genitals.
Oh, that was the most appalling thing.
But what I can't understand.
Actionable.
Once, well, she took it down, so we'll see what
she took it down with the most bratty little, well, he said it first, I'm going to take it down anyways. It was just like, you are a child. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, these people, well, you don't expect anything better of these people. That same person is a member of the Irish Family Planning Association, and please do complain if you have time. Is he member of the Irish Family Planning Association, and she retweeted the I can't wait to have an abortion tweet from some fucking fetishist. She also was retweeted, that tweet about me being obsessed with my daughter's
That is just horrible.
genitals. She was retweeted by what's her name, Villami, that horrible author who led the harassment campaign, Clara Villami, who led that harassment campaign against Rachel Rooney. I mean, these people are despicable all across the way, from the lowest fucking anime avatar right up to verified ticks on Twitter. These people are despicable. And what I can't understand at this stage, I've gone through this for 3 years now. Where are my friends? Where are the people saying, don't fucking do that? That's not right. Where are they? The cowardice of my friends is just extraordinary. You know, it blows my mind that I'm still going through this and no one's standing up for me. You know. But anyway, sorry, that's my rant for today. Over. Anyway.
I want to again, and I know it sounds, because I think it's about 3 weeks in a row that I've mentioned Lolly Penny, who I don't really mind that much, but I do find some of her tweets quite astonishing, and I just happened to see one today. It's possible, like, I've been at work all day, it's possible that everyone has seen this already, but I've seen it. And she's complaining that where are the gender critical women condemning the fact that she's been called a paedophile, a victim blamer, and a rape apologist, and being told that I defended a sexual predator? And it's an odd question to ask, isn't it? Because, and then she goes on to say, what happened is that someone asked me hypothetically what I would say to a 15-year-old girl who found herself in a changing room next to a trans woman. I responded that I'd advise her to respect that person's privacy. I phrased it poorly, and that's on me. So I went back and I found the tweet, right? Because I remember it's rude to stare at people's genitals. And what she actually said was, how am I supposed to know how she would feel? I haven't met your daughter and I'm not her parent, but I'd advise her not to stare at other people's genitals without their permission because it's rude.
And as Graham said, well, back at the guy, you know.
Yes, and this was around the Wee Spa incident. But she's complaining that people have had a go at her about this, and she says, I phrased it poorly. But nowhere does she say, I retract it.
No.
I don't believe that this is the case. She's just mourning about it. She's mourning that people have read it and have taken umbrage to it. It's the most incredible thing.
These are the same people who say that there should be consequences for your terrible opinions. They're always on about that. There's no cancel culture. There's just consequences for your terrible opinions. These are the same people who argue that. I've never seen such a childish group of people. They want everything their way. It's just hilarious. Did you see J.D. Godley got cancelled in a hilarious?
It didn't. Why? What did she say?
Basically, she's in some pantomime coming up, and some conservative counsellor dug up a bunch of her old tweets, the way her and her friends do for everyone else, and published them. And now there's a campaign to get her taken out of the thing. Now, I have to say, obviously cancel culture, I think, is really a huge problem. Huge problem. Yes. Not so much for people like me, more for people like Rachel Mead, the social worker, who I want to speak about later, who's going through a disciplinary process because she believes in the reality of biological sex. You know, these are the people who cancel culture is really getting, and I'm so delighted that Janie Godley is going to have a touch of it, because she joined in with calling me transphobic, me bigoted, all that sort of stuff, along with everyone else. So I'm just delighted this is happening. I'm delighted because it's, it's great. And I hope it happens to more people, you know. I hope it becomes I hope it becomes impossible for anyone to have a public life. Because only when that happens will this fucking stuff be destroyed.
Like Andy Warhol's 15 minutes of fame, but it'll be 15 minutes of shame.
Yes, everyone in the future will be
shamed for 15 minutes canceled.
I love that. Adi, that's absolutely fucking brilliant, Colin. It's the 15 minutes of shame, isn't it? It will happen to everyone. It does happen to everyone.
Yeah. Like, I don't think my kids will ever get social networking, I mean, I think my daughter has Instagram, but I don't think she is herself on it to some. I don't know, but I don't think. I think they're very aware that this is just a swamp, that they really don't want to have anything to do with, I mean, so when you think of all the people who could have been great political candidates, who never will be, because someone found a tweet when they were 16 or 15, it's destroying a whole generation.
Absolutely.
And it's empowering the biggest bullies in the world. Listen, we have Sal Grover here. Shall we bring her in?
Yes.
She's having a drink. I'll let her swallow it, and then I'll bring her in. Hello, Sal. How are you doing?
Well, how are you?
Sorry.
And cheers. Cheers, Sal. Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I had a drink, but I ran up the stairs here. It's terrible.
It's early here, but I'll cheers with you.
God bless
It's 2 a.m.
2 a.m.
Tiny
there.
little sip
Oh, I'm
of
sorry.
vodka.
Oh, well,
about that.
thank you so much for staying up for us.
You're welcome. But I will say I have to go in 20 minutes because I'm going on GB News to talk. Which I'm very
Oh,
excited
great.
about.
Okay.
Fabulous. That's so
Yes.
great.
Or
Thank you.
as
I'm
we
so
call it
excited.
over here, the only news station covering this issue.
Well, it's so interesting because in the last few days since the Kickstarter thing happened,
We'll explain that in a sec.
Yeah, but I'll just say I've emailed every news organization, women's media anyone that I could think of, anyone that I've discovered from it. They won't have anything to do with me.
Yeah. And all because, and I'll just fill in a bit of background, all because Sal started up a social network that is exclusively for women. She's done what has been suggested by a lot of trans activists, in fact, that cis women need to get spaces of their own, leave us alone. And every time they try, they are completely shut down by people like Kickstarter and they're the online armies of Mordor. How did it happen this time with Kickstarter? What exactly happened?
Oh my God, it's so interesting. So basically, a little bit of a backstory to it is that, it's not a secret that female-led startups are completely forgotten in the investor market most of the time. It's 2.3% of venture capitalist funding goes to female-led startups. We have the double whammy of being female-led and then for females.
Yeah.
And so we actually, for our next funding round, we wanted to do equity crowdfunding, which started in about 2018 or maybe 17, something like that. It's like crowdfunding, but you can actually buy shares in startups. And I was really excited by that because I was like, even investment is quite a male-dominated thing, and it's really intimidating. But we could bring women into sort of the investor world, just because you could buy 200 shares for $200 kind of thing. So you'd own a little part of Giggle, blah blah blah. No equity crowdfunding company in Australia will work with us.
Wow.
One of them called the let's say the negative press that has about Giggle, which is calling it transphobic or whatever. They said it was an open wound that you have to fix.
Ooh, an open wound you have to fix.
Yeah.
Nice.
And we actually, for that particular meeting, it was a Zoom meeting, and we actually recorded that meeting because we were sort of at our wits' end with it, and we just wanted to have have it on record, the evidence, what was being said, and then that came out, and we were like,
wow, that's amazing.
So you get to the point where you're left with very little options. Startups are incredibly expensive to launch, and apps are really expensive to run. Who knew?
Yeah.
And so we were like, okay, well, we'll do a crowdfunding Kickstarter to then get us into the next phase. Because, once you grow more, blah, 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 then potentially the equity crowdfunding people will go, okay, cool, we'll work with you. So it's really a stepping stone to stuff like that. So we chose to do it with Kickstarter because they're actually the hardest ones to get approved on. So we're like, well, if they approve us, then they shouldn't kick us off. Because we're not naive at this point. I knew that there would be activists who would come after us, which makes it really difficult as well because you want people to share it, but then at the same time you're like, oh, am I putting myself at risk? So
yeah.
Anyway, so I actually didn't know about it. It happened at like 1 o'clock in the morning Australia time, and it just so happened that I had a meeting at 5 a.m. So I'd woken up and I found out on Twitter that everyone was sharing it because they had sent an email to all of our backers saying that we were suspended and banned. Well, they say suspended, but you don't have a way to approve it. So you're appeal it, sorry. So you're expelled. Like,
Right.
Yeah, it's the same with Twitter. They call it suspension, but it's like,
Yeah,
that's not
yes.
suspension. That's expulsion. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like high school. Suspended means you don't get to go to school for a few days. Expulsion
Yeah.
means you're out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So we were expelled from Kickstarter, but they sent this email to all of our backers saying that it was because we were bigoted and the campaign was using hate speech. And like I'll say this.
Can you sue them? Sorry, I know that's easier said than done.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
like,
you should start a Kickstarter so you can fundraise to sue Kickstarter.
really good
What
idea.
did they actually say? Did they have more of a justification? Did they pick anything and say this is
No,
bigoted
we
speech,
don't
this
even know
is-"
specifically what it is. But so, like, because that's my thing is like, at what point is that not defamation? Because
Yeah.
I find there's quite a lot of hypocrisy in banning us from Kickstarter because we're a platform for women. We're not banning anyone. It's just we're for women. Like I get
They're the
asked,
bigots. They're the bigots.
And they
Like,
actually
yes.
used the word bigot to that
Yeah.
word? Oh my, holy shit. That's got to be
Yes.
actionable.
Yeah, they sent it to us, like the email to us as well. And
And they had
So-
pre-vetted you. They already pre-vetted you. The whole point you
Yeah,
went to Kickstarter is like,
exactly.
okay, before we start this, take a look at us, make sure we're on the up and up. Everything's all cool. We're cool here. And they said,
Yes.
yeah, cool. And then, of course, they got flack from the anime avatars. What did you call them? The Graham just now,
I can't remember.
the hordes from Mordor.
Oh yeah.
yeah, and so like we were just like very much like, well, then at what point are you not complicit in that because you approved us?
That's right.
Yes.
And two things. So, but then we it so happened that I'd sort of discovered Lift Women, which is a new Australian startup that is crowdfunding exclusively for women businesses. And I've been able to actually talk to the founder of it, have her on board, and then relaunch. And it's the same crowdfunder. So like she wanted to understand as well. She was like, you've been kicked off for bigotry. Can I ask why? And I was like, well, you can just read the campaign. And if you find something bigoted in there, let me know. Like one of the things is we never actually even mention trans people.
The
Like,
word, it never comes up. It's just like
No,
Megan
it doesn't
Murphy
talk
said.
about
They're
it.
talking about women.
Like it's just for females.
Yeah.
50% of the global population. Like,
This is basically. I did a House of Lords thing, Sal, and there was one lord there. Most of them very polite and lovely, but there was one who thought he'd give me a talking to, and he pointed out that I was banned both from Twitter and Facebook. And what I loved about this is that he imagines that Facebook and Twitter are moral authorities or moral kind of arbiters for the whole world. And
Yes.
their morality is completely upside down. It's completely upside down.
well, all of it is because my position on it now is that, okay, so there's all of this stuff, especially in women's media. And I just saw someone do a comment about BBC Women's Hour. So I've sent them, I think it might be my 40-something email that I've ever sent them. Yeah, no, they couldn't.
To Women's Hour.
Yeah, they will not speak to me. They
Yeah.
will
Oh
not.
no, Women's Hour now known as People's Hour over here.
Yeah. But
Bleeders
they-
hour.
Yeah, no, like
Not
it's
even,
like
yeah.
all of these different, especially sort of like, if you want to get into sort of the identity politics, wokeness of it, of this like more women in STEM and more women in tech, and I'm like, hi, here I am. Like, but do we have for women businesses now? Do we have to ask permission from trans rights activists if they approve of our business before we can do anything with it?
Yeah.
Because that's the situation that they're putting us in. But then at
It
the
is,
same
isn't
time,
it?
they're also creating, perfect new opportunities in the market for a place like Lift Women to emerge and cater to women who are basically just being ignored.
I think we'll take that. I think Jane Clare Jones once said this, and it really hit me hard. She said that Twitter realized that women were organizing and they didn't like it. You know, and I think the same is I think the thing that scares these people more than anything is the idea of women talking to each other and them
Yes.
not being able to listen in or
Yes.
influence them. Because
this is the
look
root
at how much damage these handmaidens have done by people like Janie Godley by kind of acting as a kind of a shield for this bullshit. The Women's Equality Party, we just revealed that because they have a Google employee, a single male Google employee with a trans-identified child, they are ignoring the consultation that they themselves brought up and just kind of running roughshod over the opinions of all their members. It's an extraordinary situation, you know, and it's all based on the fact that they just don't like women speaking.
But this is one of the massive reasons why people report women to get them thrown off Twitter, isn't it? It separates them from their network. It prevents people from prevents women from talking to each other, from discussing, from organising. It's because it's powerful.
Sorry.
Well, you also see, like, because, you know, there have been over the years, and there's still some that exist, you know, like Facebook groups that are supposedly for women, or they'll be like for a specific topic, like it'll be like a breastfeeding Facebook group or something. But males are going into them and then they're dictating the entire conversation in there of what language you can use. Oh, this is triggering, or how dare you say this, blah, blah, blah. And so women are getting kicked out of them. And so it's like, my thing is like, okay, fine. When I'm on Facebook, I don't use it, but if I'm on Facebook or I'm on Twitter, I'll play by your rules. Fine. I watch my language on Twitter. I'm very careful about what I say. What I'm screaming at my screen is very different to what I'm typing.
Yes, me too.
Yeah.
Twitter will build a censor that can sense that.
Yeah. But I'm very much like, I'm like, okay, I'll play by your rules. But I'm like, I just have a platform that also has rules.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's like what, and it's like my thing is like if you want to get into these conversations about bigotry or like some sort of oppression Olympics or something, well, you know what? There's lots of women on Giggle who are Muslim, and who are women who like aren't comfortable or not permitted to be in places with men or males.
Yeah.
And so what, are they not allowed to have a place on the internet where they're free to talk? Because that's what Giggle's providing them, that space.
If anyone is out there who'd like to write this piece for me, I would love to write something about how the left in the UK completely forgot about Muslim people as soon as trans rights came on the scene.
Yes.
You know, at one point they were all, I remember I used to get in trouble because I used to complain about the all over burqa thing. I felt that was, you know, especially when you saw a husband walking beside the wife in shorts and t-shirt, it used to drive me mad. But all the left-wing hand-wringing I got, it's their culture, you know, it's her choice, you know, which they don't know for sure. It's not their choice.
I mean, there's certain cases, sure, where it is, but like in Afghanistan, we're not talking about choices here.
Exactly. But nonetheless, as soon as men wanted to start dressing as women and taking their rights, they were the people like Owen Jones and Laurie Penny. They completely forgot Muslims.
Oh no, I did a tweet when the Afghanistan stuff like really started to happen a few weeks ago. I did a tweet and I was like, if self-ID genuinely works, now would be a great time to tell the women of Afghanistan how to do it.
Yeah, they hate stuff like that. They get really angry at stuff like that. You know.
So what are you doing anything with Kickstarter? Have you spoken to them? Have you managed to?
So we responded to them and said, if anyone's the bigots here, it's you, because they said they sort of signed off their email with you know, like, thank you for your understanding, or we're sure you understand. And so we sort of just responded to that of, well, this is our understanding of what you've done. And so you're welcome. We do understand it quite clearly. And obviously there's no response. But my dad was saying, he was like we sat there and we wrote this email together, and he was like, it was such a good email. I really thought that maybe they'd respond. And I was like, Dad, they're going to read it and go like, fuck off, turf.
Hey, send it, I'll put it on the blog if you like, and we post it underneath here. We'd love to.
Cool, oh yes, what a good idea.
I mean, so it's the thing of like, do I think Kickstarter have done something that is genuinely defamatory? Yeah, I do. Could I spend time focusing on that? Yes, but no. Onwards and upwards kind of thing.
I think with any luck, I think maybe more and more people are realizing that these Silicon Valley companies are exactly the same. They're all doing exactly the same thing. Twitter is doing it. Twitter today banned a police commissioner for standing up for women's rights. So I think things like that are beginning to ring true. Listen, I'm a bit worried about you having to go, Sal. So let me just ask you.
I've got like 5 minutes. It's cool.
Okay, well, let me ask this anyway. How is Giggle doing? How is the community on there?
Really well. It's going fantastic. Yeah, it's a completely female space. I mean, the whole thing works as it should. Like,
right.
Yeah, there's definitely like there's few little like app improvements. I mean, we have to always remind people like this is like the elementary version of Google. Like this is the MVP that we have launched, and we take note of what everybody wants, like different things, and it's all listened to. We'll all do it, but it's just I mean,
how many users do you have, or is that a rude question? How many?
I don't know the exact number off the top of my head right now because it does change every day, but it's over 10,000 monthly users.
That's not bad. That's pretty good for a small.
That's great.
You must be so proud of yourself. That's what a great thing you have done.
Yeah, it's weird because at the same time you're like, you want to get it out there more, but that's without any advertising or marketing. We haven't done anything like that yet because we did try doing online marketing tests with Facebook ads and they got banned. So
amazing.
I love this.
I can't believe that like the idea, Helen Joyce said something amazing that was like, in no culture at any time in human history have they not distinguished between men and women. This idea that we have now that it's bigoted to acknowledge that there's a difference between male and female and that it matters it is unprecedented in any culture. There have been like acknowledgments that males can be feminine and females can be masculine, and there have been ways of configuring society around that with things like ladyboys and fafinas and whatever, all these kind of third gender role type things. But none of them were like denying the existence of biological sex. A hydra was sort of considered not quite a man, but was never considered literally a woman. This idea that biological sex isn't real has never, ever, ever existed in any culture in all of anthropological human history. So this idea now that we're saying you're a bigot for acknowledging that males and females exist and females need spaces just for other females, it's so insane to me. It's so insane.
It really is. And it's so overused. It's overused, isn't it? Like everyone's a bigot for everything now.
Let's let Sal in. Let's let Sal in.
Yeah, it's so ridiculous as well. It's because like there's different platforms for different kinds of people. Like there are Muslim dating apps and Jewish dating apps and Christian dating apps. And well, there used to be gay and lesbian dating apps.
And no, you can't. You're not allowed. You're kicked off instantly. You can literally say, "I won't date."
Not in this new Gilead.
Well, Giggle does have a lesbian dating platform on it, and it is strictly female.
Yeah.
But on a gay dating platform, you can say, "I won't date black people," and that's fine. But if you say, "I won't date females" on a gay male platform, out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. I was just worried there because Artie was turning into Big Artie and Little Artie. So he was going back between the two states. I thought something might happen. I do. And sorry, guys, I was just aware that Sal will have to go. And so now that you now have a new fundraising home, is that right?
Yes. And so it's liftwomen.com. Yep. And so it's safe. Yes.
Great.
I had a long talk to the founder, and it was just very much like I just said you may get people contacting you. I just basically screenshot them and show me what they're saying, and just stay with us, and it will pass.
Yes.
I was like, because they do go away.
Yeah.
And so she's just absolutely lovely. And this Lift Women only launched in June, so they're very, very new. But they will then. It's at the moment you have to be an Australian-owned company, but they do take backers from all over the world. Like anywhere you are, you can back. So please give me all your money. Like sign over your retirement funds. But in the next few months, they will be launching in the UK and the US and other countries. So I was initially talking to her because on Giggle we have a mentoring and networking category, and where women can connect, especially if they want to start their own businesses or startups. And so I was talking to her about doing something where women can meet on Giggle. You've got an idea and you want other people to be part of it, and then you can go to Lift Women to get funding for it.
Right.
Like, let's get more women starting businesses, especially businesses for women.
Also, if they're willing to go,
idea.
if they're willing to go that little extra mile, they might announce that it's a safe place for gender critical women to raise funds for gender critical projects.
Yes, I've had a few people ask me this, and I haven't asked her that, like the founder of it, but I'm going to ask her and sort of do a bit of a whisper in her ear and saying, do a charity part.
Yeah, I think so. Apparently,
there's so many funds needed.
I know Marion Miller, who is trying to raise money for her legal defense. She's had her PayPal taken down and her Buy Me a Coffee taken down. I think her PayPal is back up. So please, if you're going to send her money, send it through that at the moment. But we're also looking into more stable ways.
Her Buy Me a Coffee came down?
More transparent ways. It did briefly. I maybe back up. I'm not sure, but they did what they do, and they got a success. Yeah.
But I'm surprised because like Buy Me a Coffee has literally liked some of my tweets. Like
I know, yeah, they're great. They're great. But let's, now they'd be in trouble for us saying that. Sorry, Buy Me a Coffee. But yeah. So that's great that it's kind of found a new home and that you're still getting users and stuff like that.
Yeah. No, it's a thing. It's like it's all. Like in terms of like Giggle, it's like we've had so many obstacles. Like there's so much happens behind the scenes, and sometimes like when I'm tweeting, I'm like actually hysterically crying. But every time we have these huge big obstacles, we overcome them. Like I never thought that doing a startup would be easy. I didn't think it would be this hard, but
it shouldn't be this hard. As you say, for all this talk of getting women into tech and all that sort of stuff, these fucking bastards are doing everything they can to make it harder for women.
Yes.
Yes. And the thing is, like, it's important to remember they're not making it impossible because there are, like, you find these solutions, like with women, or like if you get kicked off Twitter, you can go over to Giggle Talk, and there's a public social media feed there. But it's like the issue is that, on Giggle, it's just for women. There's no sometimes like the activists will say to me like, oh, how do you decide who's female? Well, fortunately, I don't have to make that decision. Someone either is or there isn't. Like it is or they're not. Like it's not a decision I have to make.
Yeah.
But it's the great irony that we would be called bigoted, whereas, on Twitter, you're going to be blocked for your ideas or your views.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think we're actually the least bigoted.
Well, of course, I think the people wishing for death of people on trains and stuff are possibly the bigoted ones,
I would suggest that is true.
And it's a long past time that companies that don't really know where they are in this debate stop listening to the worst people in the world on this matter. This is what I call the bully class. And they're being empowered by clueless corporations who do whatever they say. Please, speak to your boss and tell them to stop doing this.
Can someone start like a new pad and tampon company that just says we're for women? None of this.
A what company?
Like a pad and tampon company. None of this bleeders and menstruators and people with periods. I'm like, can someone just start a new one and they just say we're for women, and that makes sense.
I find it very hard to believe that the vast majority of even trans-identified women, like trans men, think that's an issue. I do not believe it's an issue. If Freddie McConnell can give birth, I think he can suffer through looking at a packaging that's aimed at women.
I actually have asked quite a few trans men this question. I've said, I don't actually understand how you can have such severe gender dysphoria that transition is the only cure for that, or relief from it, and then have a baby.
I know it's bollocks.
The most female thing you can possibly do, really.
There are. It makes sense, and you do have to. Some of the high-profile people who are the most vociferous in how they debate this issue are attention-seeking lunatics. I think that there's a lot of.
They're always the ones who are running to every camera. Yeah,
Mars, who's a trans man. That's exactly what he said. He goes, "It's just attention-seeking narcissism."
Yeah. Yes, actually, that brings me on to something. Do you have many trans men on the site? Do they join?
No. So the issue with that, in terms of saying that we're trans exclusionary, no. Because it's the female app. So trans men can go on Giggle. They will have to contact us because in the event that they would potentially pass the security because they might not, But
Mhm.
because it's watched by humans all the time, we might go, "Oh, that looks like a guy," so
Yeah.
Right.
off we
Right.
go.
Yeah.
They just have to email Giggle and we would sort it out. Every trans man I have ever spoken to, because I've asked them, and I've probably asked 10, because there's not a lot on our side. But they have said completely support it, no interest in it, which makes
That's
makes
fair
perfect
enough.
sense.
Yeah, that
That's
makes
right.
perfect sense. Exactly. Yeah.
Thought
I
that would
think-
be the way. So
well,
but
I
I
think
said
that-
it's very much there if they want it. Because I was talking to Mars yesterday, and I did a podcast. I was on his podcast. It's coming out next week, and I said, in the event you are a trans man and there is a time where there is a specifically female question you want to ask females, and you don't want to be put in a situation that you might be with other
with men
in other forums. Giggle is there. You can use it. So no, we're not trans exclusionary.
Yeah. Well,
It's
listen,
just males. If you're male, you can't use it.
Sal, it's great to see you so positive after what's just happened.
Yes,
and
I'm so happy that you found another place to go.
I'm
female one as well.
pathologically optimistic.
Brilliant.
You're not what? Sorry, Sal.
I'm pathologically optimistic. Sometimes I kind of sound like an idiot, but
I'm the same. It takes a battering, doesn't it? It really
Yeah.
takes a battering. But I'm the same. Every time I thought it was all over when Martina Navratilova came on board.
Yeah.
I thought, oh, that's it. She's a gay icon. She won't. And then I didn't count on the fact that there were people like Anthony Watson in the world.
so I better go. I have to go now.
No
Oh,
worries.
Sal, right before you go,
Everyone-
real quick,
everyone
just
stop
speaking of
watching Weapons.
optimism, I know that you have support from trans-identified males as well. I've seen it on Twitter. People saying this doesn't bother me.
Oh
So,
yeah, no, completely. Oh, completely. I'm friends with lots and totally supportive. They backed the Kickstarter. They found out I was a bigot.
Yeah.
What a weird way to find it out.
Well, listen.
All right, well, good luck.
Enjoy
Good
GB
luck with your
News.
interview.
I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Lovely to talk to you, Sal.
Wonderful
Love
to
you
see you
soon.
again, Sal. Yay.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay.
That language the Kickstarter uses, it's
I know,
dreadful,
yeah.
isn't it? It's unconscionable. How could they possibly think, this seems reasonable?
And Helen, you're so right. They're complicit in it because they already pre-approved it themselves. Yeah.
We must remember to suggest to people not to use Kickstarter and to use this other
Lift women.
Absolutely.
If you're in Australia.
Absolutely.
If you're in Australia,
Yeah.
So we're on 52 minutes. I am going to have to go in a second. But
Okay, I just wanted to very quickly say, talking of bigots, I saw somebody tweet this out. So Jesse Singal did a review of Helen Joyce's book. Somebody
he woke
has
up, did
written
he?
a review on Gawker. And the title is Bigot Reviews Bigot for New York Times Book Review.
Oh my God.
And the piece
Gawker.
is just terrible. It's so awful and it's so inflammatory, and yet it's still unconvincing. It still doesn't manage to make a convincing case as to why you should neither not read the book, or that biological sex should be secondary to gender identity. It doesn't even do it. It's worth a read.
Well, I'm glad Gawker is back and maintaining the high standards of journalism that got it defunded the first time. Yeah, it's amazing.
My goodness. I used to be obsessed with Gawker. Is it back now?
It had some good stuff. But they're just, as usual, a certain type
Oh, I was obsessed with Gawker because I was a different person then. Now I look back and I'm like, no, they were terrible.
Yeah. But
they were funny.
No, it's back, I think. And I mean, is there anything else before we go that we can touch on? I don't think so. I think we kind of covered a lot of ground today without even
yes, it was excellent to talk to Sal, wasn't it? How brilliant.
Yeah.
And so positive still. That's fab.
Yeah.
Yes. And she's
always such a nice brisk breeze of fresh air every time she's
Yeah. Well, she lives in Australia, so I can't date her, so it doesn't matter. All right. Well, listen, it was lovely to talk to you. Sorry, I don't want to reduce women to my chances are basically nil anyway. Lovely to see you all. Thank you for joining us again, and maybe we'll have an extra one this weekend. Who knows?
Yeah, maybe.
There'll be
maybe.
this week. craziness, I'm sure there's going to be more craziness. So
Yes.
we'll have to have an emergency mess or an extra mess.
Definitely. More wheels trundling away from the car everywhere.
It's
All right,
great,
everyone. It is great.
Lovely
All right.
commenters.
Talk
Like
to
and
you soon.
subscribe. Thanks,
Like and
everybody, for
subscribe. Thank you
tuning
for watching.
in.
Bye, everyone.